They say you can feel when something shifts, like when the wind changes right before a storm. That night in Charleston, I didn't feel a storm coming. I felt a stillness, the kind you don't notice until later, when you look back and realize that was the moment things quietly started to fall apart. Laura had a corporate dinner that evening. Her company had just landed a big account, so they were celebrating with clients. She didn't ask me to come. Said it would be all work talk and recycled jokes. I didn't mind. She texted me around 9:30 asking if I could come pick her up since she'd had a few drinks. I appreciated that. Thought it meant she was being responsible. Thought it meant she still trusted me to be part of her world, even in little ways. The restaurant was one of those modern rooftop places, all exposed beams and overpriced appetizers. I parked across the street and waited in the car with the windows cracked, listening to the hum of city life. It had been warm that day, but now the breeze carried a light chill, the kind that makes you roll your sleeves back down without thinking. I spotted her near the entrance, standing under a pool of soft light, talking to a man. She had that familiar glow about her, the one she used to have when we'd go out dancing years ago, when everything felt lighter. Her eyes sparkled. Her laugh floated easily into the air. She looked free. The man beside her was dressed sharply. Navy suit, no tie, brown leather shoes that caught the light when he shifted his weight. He had that polished look of someone who worked in management and knew it. I didn't know his name then, but I would soon enough. He was angled toward her in a way that made it hard to ignore. Shoulders square, attention undivided. I could tell from the distance that he wasn't just chatting. He was present, too present, and Laura didn't back away. As she threw her head back laughing, her hand lightly brushed his arm. Then she tilted slightly toward him. That's when it happened. His hand slid down, landing low on her back. Not just a polite touch, not a friendly pat. It lingered as if it belonged there. His fingers spread like they were claiming space. Just a moment, but I saw it. And worse, I saw how she let it stay. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. My jaw clenched without me realizing it. She finally caught sight of me and lit up like nothing was out of the ordinary. Waved, smiled, blew a kiss, even. It was the same gesture she used when I used to pick her up after spin class. Same carefree ease. But now it felt hollow. She crossed the street and got into the passenger seat with a soft sigh, smoothing her dress down at the knees. "Thanks for coming," she said, like everything was just fine. Ugh. My feet are *ling me. These heels are brutal. I didn't respond right away. My hands tightened slightly on the wheel. "Everything go well?" I asked after a beat, keeping my eyes on the road as I pulled away from the curb. She launched into a story about one of the clients spilling his wine, how the CEO tried to tell a joke and forgot the punchline, how the shrimp was undercooked but the wine made up for it. She talked in quick, cheerful bursts, like she was still riding the high of the evening. I waited. Then I asked casually, "Who was the guy you were talking to?" Looked familiar. She didn't miss a beat. "Oh, Roy? He's on the marketing side. Kind of a mess right now, going through a rough divorce. It's actually really sad. He had a few too many tonight and started getting emotional. I was just trying to calm him down before he said something stupid in front of the clients." I nodded slowly. She'd prepared that. I could hear it in the rhythm of her voice. Too smooth, too balanced. No hesitation. "You looked pretty close," I said, trying not to sound accusatory, but the words came out flatter than I intended. She turned to me with a tired smile. "He was having a breakdown, Rob. Literally crying at one point. I wasn't gonna just walk away. You know I'm not like that." And she wasn't. At least not the Laura I married. She turned her attention to her phone, thumb tapping across the screen, probably responding to work messages. Or maybe not. I didn't ask. I didn't want to be that guy, suspicious, needy, controlling. I'd never wanted to become that version of myself. We drove the rest of the way home mostly in silence. She scrolled. I focused on the road. But something had shifted. Not just in the air, in me. It wasn't anger that settled in my chest. Not even jealousy. It was clarity. And clarity has its own kind of cold. At home, Laura kicked off her heels, poured herself a glass of water, and disappeared upstairs to change. I sat on the edge of the couch and stared at the quiet flicker of the TV I'd left on earlier. Some nature documentary, muted now. Lions chasing something in slow motion. Funny how even that felt like a metaphor. When she came back downstairs in sweats and a loose tee, she flopped next to me and put her feet in my lap like she used to. I didn't say anything. I didn't push her away. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "You've been quiet. Long day?" I nodded. "Yeah, long day." She smiled gently, eyes half-lidded from wine and fatigue. "Let's go to bed." We did. Lights off, back to back. I stared at the ceiling for a long time after her breathing evened out. I wasn't sure what had happened that night, but I knew what it wasn't. It wasn't nothing. And the worst part? She made me doubt myself for even thinking it. I woke up the next morning with a dull weight on my chest. Not pain, not fear, just pressure. Like something inside me had clicked into place during the night. Some inner switch I hadn't known was there. Laura was already out of bed. I could hear the low whir of her hair dryer in the bathroom, the occasional shuffle of her feet across the tile. I stared at the ceiling, letting the sound play like background noise in a movie I was no longer starring in. We'd been married for 6 years. Together for nearly 10. Long enough to know someone's patterns by instinct. Long enough to notice when they begin to shift. Not in obvious, explosive ways, but in the quiet detours. The ones you miss if you're not paying close attention. But now I was paying attention. After that night at the restaurant, I began cataloging everything I'd previously brushed off as harmless. Things I had chalked up to her being tired or stressed or just going through a phase. The truth is, I'd seen it coming, just didn't want to admit it. Started with her phone. Laura used to leave it everywhere, on the kitchen counter, on the nightstand, under throw pillows on the couch. She'd lose it twice a day. I used to joke she should glue it to her hand. But lately, she never let it out of her sight. Took it into the bathroom. Kept it on silent. Screen always face down. Sometimes she'd laugh at something, then immediately close the screen like she was hiding a secret. One night, I walked into the room a little faster than usual and caught her swiping a message away before locking the phone. I didn't ask. She didn't offer. She just smiled. Said she was texting Marcy from work about a client presentation. Her voice was breezy, unbothered, rehearsed. Then came the trips. Laura's job always involved some travel, but she used to dread it. She hated hotels, always said they smelled like bleach and loneliness. But now she was practically excited. Told me about new cities on the calendar, started flying out a day early or staying a night late, because the flights were cheaper. I checked, they weren't. But I didn't call her out. Not yet. Her outfits changed too. At home, she'd usually wear oversized tees and yoga pants. That was her comfort zone. But when she left for work or one of those quick dinners with clients, she wore heels again. Carefully styled hair. New lipsticks, shades I didn't recognize. Darker, bolder. Colors she never wore around me. I noticed the lingerie too. It wasn't like I went snooping through her drawers. But it's hard to miss French lace and delicate silk when it's hanging to dry in your shared bathroom. Expensive stuff. Tags from boutiques I'd never seen her shop at before. Perks from a vendor, she told me when I asked about a particular set. Navy blue with fine gold embroidery. One of those weird promotional things. I'll probably never wear it. But I saw the receipt in the trash a few days later. Boutique in Atlanta. Over $300. There were other signs, like the new bracelet on her wrist, thin rose gold with a delicate clasp. I hadn't given it to her, and I would have remembered. When I asked, she said it was a corporate gift. Everyone got one. But when I mentioned it to Marcy in passing during a holiday party, she looked confused. What bracelet? Then there was her scent. Laura had always worn the same perfume. Something light and floral. I'd bought it for her on our anniversary one year, and she wore it ever since. But recently she smelled different. Not bad, just not her. A sharper note, almost masculine. Like expensive cologne had brushed against her skin and lingered there. I told myself I was imagining it, that my mind was playing tricks. that these were all coincidences. But coincidences don't avoid your eyes when they say, "I love you." That was the hardest part. She still said it. Almost every day. Said it in the morning as she grabbed her keys. Said it over text when she sent me reminders to pick up dry cleaning. Said it at night as she climbed into bed beside me, already half turned away. But she stopped looking me in the eyes when she said it. It used to be a ritual, something warm and solid between us. She'd cup my cheek or brush my hand. Look right into me, smile softly. "I love you, Rob." And I'd feel it. Really feel it. Now, it came more like a reflex. A phrase tossed out like a pre-recorded message. Once, just to see, I didn't say it back. Waited to see if she noticed. She didn't. Just rolled over and pulled the covers tighter. I started running little tests, asking simple questions about her day, just to watch how quickly she dodged. Complimenting her out of the blue, only to see guilt flicker across her face before she forced a thank you. Watching her reflection in the mirror as she got ready. Studying the expression she wore when she thought I wasn't watching. She was slipping. Somewhere else. Somewhere I wasn't invited. But I still hadn't caught her. Not really. Not in anything that would stand up in an argument. And that's the thing about this kind of betrayal, it doesn't scream. It whispers. One afternoon, I came home early from work. Laura was supposed to be in a meeting, but her car was in the driveway. I entered quietly, expecting to find her on a call. But the house was silent. I found her in the guest room, door cracked, light streaming in. She was sitting on the floor beside the bed, laptop open in front of her, headphones in. Her face was tense, lips tight. I stood there for a few seconds, just watching, then knocked gently. She jumped like I'd fired a G***N. "Oh, hey," she said, yanking the headphones out. "Didn't hear you come in. Just finishing a training module." She closed the laptop too fast. I noticed her hand trembling slightly. I asked her what the module was about. She paused. "Compliance. HR stuff. Boring." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I nodded. Let her lie. Again. Later, after she went to bed, I reopened that laptop. Her password hadn't changed. I shouldn't have done it. I know that. But at some point, when the silence grows thick enough, you stop worrying about the rules. She'd cleared the browser history. Emptied downloads. Nothing obvious. But she'd missed one thing. In the laptop's PDF preview folder, a single file remained. Opened but not deleted. It was a hotel confirmation. I didn't open it. Not yet. Just stared at the title. Livingston Inn Premium King Reservation. My hand hovered over the trackpad. My stomach twisted. I was afraid of what I already knew. Instead of clicking, I closed the lid and left it alone. That night, I lay in bed next to Laura, listening to her soft breathing, wondering if I was still her husband, or just the man she hadn't left yet. That was the night I stopped pretending. Because when your instincts scream for weeks and nothing makes sense, you start listening. And once you do, you can't unhear the silence. It was a Tuesday. I remember that because Laura always left early on Tuesdays for her regional team check-in, 6:45 a.m. Like clockwork. She wore her navy blazer, the one with the tailored fit, and a pair of pointed flats she once said made her feel like a woman who could fire someone without blinking. She kissed my cheek on her way out. A little too quick. Not enough pressure to feel real. Then the door closed, and the house went quiet again. I went about my morning in a kind of autopilot, coffee, news, half-reading emails for work. But I couldn't stop thinking about the file I hadn't opened. The one I'd seen on her laptop the night before. Livingston Inn Premium King Reservation. The name clung to my thoughts like humidity. It wasn't even a hotel we'd been to. In fact, I'd never even been to Livingston, Montana. Why would she go there? And more importantly, who would she go there with? I told myself not to look. That if I opened that file, I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't chalk it up to stress or coincidence or my own overthinking. But pretending was already a sinking ship. My gut had given up on diplomacy weeks ago. That's the thing no one tells you about the moment you confirm your worst fear. It doesn't explode. It just clicks. Around noon, Laura texted me. Long morning. I might grab lunch with clients. You good? I stared at the message longer than necessary, then replied, all good here. Hope the presentation went well. She didn't respond. Not unusual, but it felt heavier now. A silence filled with meaning. That afternoon, I went to get something from her car. She'd mentioned she left a folder in the back seat, some contracts she needed scanned, and I told her I'd take care of it since I was working from home. I didn't expect to find anything. I wasn't even looking, but when I opened the passenger side door and leaned in, something slid out of the side pocket and landed on the floor mat. An envelope, white, thick, folded with intent. I picked it up, expecting receipts or junk mail. Instead, it was a printed hotel booking confirmation, exactly like the one I'd seen on her laptop. But this time I opened it. Livingston in Premium King Room. 2 guests. Check-in Friday. Check-out Sunday. Prepaid. No refund. No mistaking it. And there it was in bold beneath the guest names. Roy Carver. Laura Bennett. I didn't move. Not at first. My brain was still loading, like it couldn't quite render what it was reading. Roy Carver. The man from the bar. Blue suit. The one who placed his hand on the small of her back like it belonged there. Like she'd invited it. The envelope trembled slightly in my hand, but I didn't feel shaky. In fact, I didn't feel anything. My mind wasn't racing. My chest wasn't pounding. I just stopped. Something inside me went perfectly still. A kind of inner silence I hadn't known existed. There it was. Not a hunch. Not paranoia. Not a breadcrumb or a whisper. Proof. Cold. Printed. Precise. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't some work travel glitch. This was a deliberate reservation. A room booked for 2. A weekend, not a work trip. Not a layover. Plan. And I wasn't in it. I carefully refolded the document and slid it back into the envelope, then into the side pocket of the car like I'd never touched it. Like I hadn't just seen my marriage folded into an 8.5 by 11 sheet of glossy confirmation. Then I went back inside. Made coffee. Answered an email about budget allocations. Even called my mom back about dinner next week. I did it all like a man moving through molasses. Slow, deliberate, functioning. But inside it was different now. Because I knew. That evening, Laura came home like nothing had happened. Said traffic was brutal and one of the new guys on her team couldn't manage a slideshow to save his life. She laughed. Made herself a drink. Told me we should do takeout that night. She was light, warm, inviting. Like she wasn't planning to disappear for a weekend with another man in 3 days. I watched her from across the room as she scrolled through her phone, texting someone with quick little smirks she thought I couldn't see. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look worried. She looked content. That's what shook me the most. That she could be this calm, this casual, while knowing what she'd done. While knowing what she was still doing. Maybe she assumed I'd never find out. Or worse, maybe she assumed I already knew and didn't care enough to stop her. And in that moment, I realized something. She'd already left me. Long before this weekend. Long before Roy. She left the day she decided I was a placeholder. A safe harbor. Something to return to, but never stay in. I didn't confront her. Didn't hold up the reservation like some gotcha moment. That wasn't the story I wanted to live. I wasn't interested in the melodrama. I didn't want tears or gaslighting or empty apologies. What I wanted was to leave with my dignity intact. So instead, I did the only thing I knew how to do when something breaks beyond repair. I started collecting the pieces. That night, I stayed up late. Not pacing. Not crying. Just sitting. Processing. The envelope stayed in the car. I didn't need it anymore. It had already served its purpose. By midnight, I had made a decision. Quiet. Solid. No turning back. I opened my laptop and began creating a folder. Named it Personal. Inside it, I saved everything I'd seen. Screensh *TS of her texts when they lit up her phone screen unattended. Photos of receipts. Notes about changes, her lipstick, her scent, the shift in her routine. Everything I'd stored in memory, I started documenting. Not to we asterisk p asterisk nice. Not to punish. To protect myself. I backed it up twice. Then I created another folder. This one I labeled Next Steps. Inside it, I typed a single line. Find a lawyer. People think heartbreak comes with noise. Screaming. Crying. Shattered plates. Slammed doors. But mine came like fog, thick, quiet, and everywhere. The night I found the hotel confirmation, I didn't cry. Didn't shout. I just made a decision, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to clarity. There would be no confrontations. No final fights. I wasn't going to ask her why or how long or what he had that I didn't. Because at the end of the day, it didn't matter. She'd already made her choice. So I made mine. I started preparing to leave. Not physically, not yet. But in every other way that mattered. First, I got a separate email account. A burner, basically. Something she didn't know about. I used it to search for lawyers. Read reviews. Made a shortlist. Then I scheduled a consultation with one who specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for being calm but ruthless. His name was Tom. When we spoke, he didn't flinch at any part of my story. Just nodded, asked precise questions, and began outlining next steps like this was a transaction. Not the collapse of a marriage. Maybe it was both. He told me something that stuck. You're not reacting. You're documenting. That's the smartest thing you can do right now. So I kept going. I opened a new bank account in my name only. Quietly moved small amounts of money at first. Enough to create distance without raising alarms. I scanned every joint statement we had, savings, credit cards, brokerage accounts. I didn't even realize how much we had, or how much of it was in her name, until I started looking. She was smart. Smarter than I'd given her credit for. A few months ago, she'd refinanced her car under her own name. Had the titles reissued. I thought she was just being efficient. Now I wasn't so sure. One night, while she was asleep, I pulled open the drawer where she kept all our tax records and flipped through them slowly. That's when I noticed something else. A few statements from a travel credit card I didn't recognize. Not one we shared. The billing address matched ours. The card was in her name. Flights, hotels, dinners, all in cities I hadn't known she'd visited. And the charges aligned perfectly with her so-called team retreats. I took photos of every page. Uploaded them to the drive I'd created under a password only I knew. Next, I started paying closer attention to the details. The lies she told. The cover stories she crafted without blinking. I've got a quarterly review in Denver next weekend. But her suitcase contained swimsuits and sandals, not suits or notes. I'll be with the team all night. We're pulling data for the new rollout. Yet she came home with perfect makeup and no scent of the office. Just that faint trace of unfamiliar cologne again. She was methodical, but not careful enough. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Something colder had taken its place, detachment, maybe, or acceptance. I hired a private investigator. His name was Chris. Ex-military, now in his 40s, the kind of guy who didn't talk more than necessary. He said he'd need 2 weeks. I gave him all the info, dates, names, known travel. I didn't want grainy photos in a manila envelope. I wanted certainty. In the meantime, I kept living like nothing had changed. Every morning, I made coffee for both of us. Every night, I asked her how her day was. She gave me the edited version, of course. Office wins. Difficult clients. That one coworker who always wore too much perfume. I listened. I nodded. I played the part. But beneath the surface, I was building an exit plan. One Thursday, she mentioned a potential training retreat the following weekend. Said it would be in Santa Fe. Very boring, she added, like she was apologizing in advance. I'll be back by Sunday afternoon. I smiled, told her to have fun. She smiled back, relieved, I think, maybe even impressed by how easy I was being. But that was the weekend Chris called. You were right, he said. It's not business. He didn't elaborate. Didn't need to. When I opened the files he sent, I felt something tighten in my throat. Not heartbreak. Not rage. Just confirmation. Photo after photo of Laura and Roy. Different cities. Different weeks. Same energy. Too close. Too comfortable. They held hands outside a hotel in Boise. Kissed under the awning of a restaurant in Portland. In 1sh*T, she was laughing. Head tilted back, eyes crinkled. The same way she used to laugh with me when we first met. They weren't hiding. That hurt more than the act itself, the boldness of it. Like they didn't believe they'd ever be caught. Or worse, didn't care if they were. Chris had also tracked Roy. He was married, with 2 kids and a house in Spokane. Laura wasn't just cheating. She was cheating with someone else's husband. When I asked if his wife knew, Chris said no. She will, I said. But not from me. Because this wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about ruining Roy. Or punishing Laura. This was about liberation. I printed everything. Labeled it. Created a binder, simple black. No markings. Tucked it in the back of my desk drawer. It sat there like a loaded *P***n I had no intention of using unless I had to. By now, the house felt different. Colder. Emptier. Like even the walls knew what was coming. I began sorting through my things. Nothing major. Just small removals. A framed photo of us on our honeymoon. Moved to a box in the garage. My childhood books. Packed and labeled. Joint decor we'd bought at farmers markets. Slowly replaced. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did but couldn't risk asking. One night, I caught her staring at me. We were brushing our teeth. She paused, looked at my reflection and said, "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" I met her eyes in the mirror. For the first time in weeks, I didn't smile. "Yeah," I said, "just thinking a lot." She hesitated, then looked away. I don't think she believed me, but she didn't push. By the second week of preparations, everything was in place. The lawyer had a draft of the divorce paperwork. My finances were separated. My evidence was backed up in 3 places: hard drive, cloud, physical printouts. I even contacted a therapist. Not for marriage counseling. For me. Because I wanted to be clear-headed when this ended. I didn't want to walk out broken. I wanted to walk out free. The final thing I did was write a letter. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cruel. It was just the truth. 3 paragraphs. Titled with her name. It ended like this: "I didn't leave because you made a mistake. I left because you made a series of choices, all of them without me in mind. I hope you find what you're looking for. But it won't be me." I folded it carefully. Placed it in an envelope. Tucked it inside the binder. Then I waited. Not for the right moment. Just the next Thursday. That Thursday came soft and ordinary. Like betrayal doesn't deserve fanfare. The sky was overcast when I woke up. Laura was already downstairs, brewing coffee, humming some mindless tune she always hums when she thinks everything is fine. I listened for a moment before getting out of bed, stretching, and telling myself, Tonight was the night I would stop pretending. But I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to throw her suitcase on the lawn or set fire to her clothes or demand names and reasons and timelines. I didn't need any of that. I already had the truth. I spent the morning finishing work tasks like it was any other day. Cleaned out my inbox. Called a contractor about a loose gutter. Ate toast. Then I picked up groceries, her favorite kind. A bottle of Pinot she liked. Fresh basil, cherry tomatoes, garlic, and handmade pasta from that little Italian place we used to love. I came home and made dinner. Not out of nostalgia. Out of ceremony. There's something about preparing a meal for someone who doesn't know they're about to lose everything. It's almost poetic, the calm before the detonation. I cooked slowly, each movement deliberate. Chop, sauté, stir. As the scent of garlic filled the kitchen, I set the table. 2 plates, linen napkins, candlelight, nothing overdone, just enough. She walked in just after 7, still in heels, a soft smile on her lips. "Wow," she said, glancing around. "What's all this?" "Thought we could eat together," I said, placing the pan on the table. "Romantic," she teased, kicking her shoes off. "You trying to seduce me?" I smiled, not because it was funny, but because I wanted to remember this exact moment. Her standing there, makeup still perfect, smiling like everything between us was untouched. We sat, We ate. She talked, told me about a long presentation, about her coworker missing a deadline, about a new coffee machine at the office. Her voice flowed like always, calm, controlled, effortlessly casual. I nodded, chewed slowly, refilled her wine. Halfway through the meal, she paused. "You're quiet," she said. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I replied. "Just tired." She gave a small, understanding nod and moved on to the next story. About her upcoming conference in Santa Fe. She wasn't even hiding it. Her words were so confident, so smooth. They might have passed as truth if I didn't know better. She told me she'd be back Sunday afternoon. I didn't say anything. Not yet. When we finished eating, I cleared the table, rinsed the dishes, and poured us each one more glass of wine. Then I sat down across from her and placed a black binder on the table between us. She looked at it, then at me. Her smile wavered. "What's this?" "Open it." She hesitated, reached out, unsnapped the cover. Inside, printed and organized, was everything. The hotel reservation from Montana, the photos, the receipts, the email confirmation she thought she deleted, a log of her trips and how they aligned with Roy's calendar, pulled by the investigator. There was even a **T of her text to Roy from weeks earlier, forwarded from her work phone to mine, the one where she said, "Can't wait for Livingston. Just us, finally. No hiding." I watched her read. Her fingers clutched one page tighter than the others. Her breath hitched. Not loud, just enough for me to hear it. When she finally looked up, her face was pale. No more smiles. No performance. For the first time in a long time, Laura didn't have a script. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then said, "Rob." I shook my head. "Don't. I didn't mean for it to. Don't." She blinked, swallowed. "You've been spying on me? You've been lying to me." She didn't respond. Her fingers curled around the binder like it might fall apart. Her eyes dropped back to the photos. One of them showed her and Roy kissing outside a hotel in Portland. She stared at it like she didn't recognize herself. After a long silence, she said, "How long have you known?" "Long enough. Why didn't you say anything?" I leaned back in the chair. "Because I didn't want to fight. I wanted the truth." She nodded slowly like she understood. But I don't think she really did. Not yet. I reached beside me and placed a second folder on the table. Manila. Slim. My name and hers printed in clean, unadorned type. She stared at it. Then she knew. Divorce papers. Laura didn't speak. Didn't cry. Didn't ask me to stop. She just sat there, frozen, like the air had thickened around her. Finally, she whispered, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "No." "Then why?" "Because there's nothing left," I said. "And we both know it." She touched the edge of the folder but didn't open it. "I didn't want it to go this far," she said. Her voice was quiet, smaller than I'd ever heard it. "But it did. I was lost. You found someone else." She didn't deny it. Her hands dropped to her lap. Her shoulders slumped. And that was the moment I saw it hit her. Not just the guilt, but the finality. The performance was over. I stood, took my wine glass to the sink, then turned back to her. "I'm staying in the house. My lawyer will contact you about the next steps." "You already talked to a lawyer," she said, more like a realization than a question. 2 weeks ago." She looked like she wanted to say more, something to undo it all. But there was no coming back from this. Not for her. Not for us. I left the room before she could find her voice again. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of the bed we used to share and listened to the silence downstairs. I half expected her to come up, to knock, to scream, to beg. But she didn't. She just stayed in the kitchen. Still, quiet. Binder and folder still on the table between 2 empty wine glasses and the crumbs of a dinner we would never have again. A half-hour later, I heard the guest room door close. And that was it. No tears. No dramatic exit. No final kiss. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that follows something real. The kind of quiet you only hear when the truth finally speaks. She didn't beg, didn't shout. She only asked once, "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I said, "I don't think about you that way anymore." That was the end of it. She slept in the guest room. I stayed downstairs, listening to the refrigerator hum like it was trying to fill the silence. The next morning, she left without a word. No goodbye, no explanation. Just the soft click of the front door closing and the faint scent of her perfume hanging in the air like a final note. I didn't look out the window. I didn't want to know if she went to Roy. All I knew was, she was gone. And I wasn't broken, just free. A week later, the papers were signed. Laura didn't contest anything. A few days after, I heard Roy's wife had found out. Both he and Laura were fired. Their forever ended fast. She left me a note. "We need to talk." I tossed it. I stayed in the house, changed the curtains, gave away the dishes, slowly erased her. A month later, at an art exhibit, I met Rachel. No charm, no games, just honesty. I wasn't chasing love. I just wanted peace. And for the first time, I had it.